You say you want wealth, but you've ignored the source. You speak of success, but do not open the book where power begins. You chase techniques, attend seminars, collect quotes, but you have overlooked the truth that built the minds of every great man I ever studied. You have walked past the one place where eternal law is recorded without error. You have looked everywhere for a secret that was always in front of you. A verse, one verse, short in words, vast in power, hidden not because it is lost, but because men no longer look where the truth still lives. It is not found in the philosophies of the drifting masses. It is not recited by the loud voices of modern noise. It is not adorned with entertainment or coated in convenience. It is written in the old book, the only book that holds the blueprint of dominion. And what I'm about to tell you, they do not want you to see. For the man who sees it becomes ungovernable by fear, unshaken by failure, untouched by lack. The man who sees it becomes mentally sovereign, spiritually directed, materially unstoppable. There is a verse in Scripture so powerful, so exact, so eternal, that if understood, truly understood, could rebuild your fortune, renew your mind, and free your soul from every lie of mediocrity that ever touched you. I will not give you that verse yet. Because if I handed it to you as one more quote among many, you would do what most men do, nod, admire, and forget. But if you listen, if you follow me, if you stay through every word of this speech, you will not just read the verse, you will become it. When I walked with Carnegie, when I studied the minds of Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, Schwab, and Hill, I came to see that the most successful men were spiritual men, not in dress, not in ceremony, but in principle. Their minds were governed by invisible law. Their actions were born of a belief that they were not puppets of fate, but sons of law, masters of themselves. And behind every one of them, whether they could name it or not, was this verse. Whether they knew its chapter or its book, their lives echoed its reality. They obeyed it in practice, even if they never recited it aloud, and that's why they rose. I am not here to entertain you. I am not here to comfort you. I am here to reveal what the world hides. I am here to point your eyes back to the truth that formed the foundation of every great life, and to tell you that you are not exempt. If your life is in chaos, it is because you have violated law. If your finances are lacking, it is because your thoughts are disordered. If your heart is heavy, your spirit anxious, your days filled with fear, it is because you have wandered from the Word where order, peace, and dominion were written in stone. But the good news is this: the Word has not left you. The law has not changed. The door has not shut. What built empires can still build you. What shaped kings can still shape you. What guided the steps of wealth can still guide your next one, if you will listen. I spent a lifetime studying success. I watched men rise from poverty to power. I watched boys become builders of industries. I watched minds unlock riches because they obeyed spiritual law, even when they did not call it by name. And every time I traced it back, not to technique, not to trend, not to ambition, but to one truth, one eternal truth, buried in one verse. And if you want it, if you want to know what they don't want you to know, you must stay. Stay for every part. Study this as if your freedom depends on it, because it does. Stay until the very end, and you will be handed not just a line of Scripture, but the operating system of wealth, peace, purpose, and power. Let me say this before we begin. This is not for the casual man. This is not for the drifter. This is not for the man who listens once and forgets. This is for the man who writes, who applies, who moves. This is for the builder, the seeker, the one who is done playing with shallow thought. You are standing at the edge of a new world, but that world will not be handed to you. It must be spoken into existence. It must be commanded through law, and the law must be understood in full. The verse is coming, the truth is near, but only for those who stay until the end. Before we continue, say these words aloud, not softly, not lazily, but as a declaration of alignment. Truth is eternal. I build on law. My success is rooted in spiritual order. Again, truth is eternal. I build on law. My success is rooted in spiritual order. Let these words cleanse your doubt. Let them sharpen your mind. Let them call your soul into alignment. For the truth you are about to hear is not suggestion. It is structure. It is law. And once you see it, you will never again ask for permission to prosper. Let us begin. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is the verse they never wanted you to see. Not because it is hidden, but because if you ever believed it, truly believed it, you would become free. Free from fear, free from excuses, free from dependence on anything except the command center of your own thought. This verse is not merely poetic. It is not symbolic. It is the blueprint of man's dominion. It tells you plainly, you are not made by what happens to you. You are not shaped by the world. You are shaped by the thoughts you allow to dwell within you, especially those you repeat, especially those you feel, especially those you entertain in silence. You may appear to the world as a poor man, but if you think prosperity, you are rich already. You may hold no title, but if you think dominion, you carry the spirit of leadership. You may have fallen many times, but if you think victory, you are already rising. Everything you are right now, every dollar you hold, every opportunity you possess, every emotion that governs your day was first born in your thought. You are walking through a reality that your mind permitted, a world built by belief or broken by neglect. Every law of success I have ever taught begins here. Desire begins as thought. Faith begins as thought. Persistence begins as thought. Decision begins as thought. You cannot act until you first think. You cannot command until you first believe. You cannot build a life until you first build the idea of it in your own mind. The verse does not say, as a man feels. It does not say, as a man hopes. It does not even say, as a man tries. It says, thinketh. That is where the foundation lies. Not in emotion, not in chance, not in vague ambition, but in repeated intentional thought, held long enough to define the man himself. Every man of greatness I have studied obeyed this verse, whether he could name it or not. They built their identity first in thought and then made the world conform to it. Abraham Lincoln thought liberty. He read it in his youth. He imagined it during obscurity. He meditated on it through defeat. And when he finally spoke it, it changed a nation. Before he freed any man, he freed the thought of freedom in himself. Henry Ford thought motion. Before the Model T, before the assembly line, before the name meant anything, he thought of a world where every man could move freely. He was laughed at, opposed, and ridiculed. But because he kept the thought, the world eventually yielded. What you are is not your job, not your balance, not your past. What you are is what you think, habitually. A single thought held once will pass, but a thought held daily becomes a belief, and a belief held long enough becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Do you rise every morning thinking of your fortune? Or do you rehearse your failures? Do you think like a man who will be obeyed by money or chased by it? Do you think thoughts of order, wealth, clarity, decision? Or do you recycle fear, lack, shame, and confusion? Let me say it again. You are what you think. If you want to change your life, do not begin with your surroundings. Begin with your inner speech. The conversation you repeat inside your heart becomes the life you see with your eyes. Your subconscious mind, which obeys every command without question, cannot reject your dominant thoughts. It accepts what is repeated and emotionalized. And once it accepts it, it begins to work through unseen forces to make it real. This is not theory. This is law. A man may say, I want to be rich. But if he thinks constantly of bills, of failure, of risk, of loss, then he is not rich in heart. He has not planted wealth. He has planted fear. And the harvest will match the seed without fail. This verse, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, is the very seed of all creation. It is the Scripture's clearest explanation of manifestation. It tells you what you meditate on will become your reflection. Therefore, your first responsibility is not to hustle, not to shout, not even to move. It is to discipline your thought life. Before you can build a business, you must build the belief. Before you can lead others, you must think of yourself as a leader. Before you can attract riches, you must think like a man who expects them. If you think like the poor, you may inherit a fortune and lose it. If you think like the rich, you may begin in poverty and still rise. Because conditions are temporary, but thought is creative power. Your mind is a field. Every thought is a seed. You may not see the result instantly, but over time, the field will bear exactly what you have planted. If you want to know what you've been thinking, look at your life. If the crop is disappointing, change the seed. The first act of the rich man is not to make money. It is to think wealth, to hold it in the imagination, to speak of it as certain, to expect it as law. Until this is true, no effort will prosper. And so I ask you, what are you thinking and what are you becoming as a result? Say this now. Say it aloud, not quietly, not casually, but as a man who commands his future. I become what I think. I plant my future in the thoughts I choose today. Again, I become what I think. I plant my future in the thoughts I choose today. Let these words begin your reformation. Let them become your defense against idle thoughts. Let them cleanse your mind of the lies of weakness. Let them set a new pattern. From this day forward, you must watch your thoughts like a banker watches his vault. Let no thief enter. Let no seed of failure take root. Let no fear grow long enough to bear fruit. You are not bound to your circumstances. You are not doomed by your history. You are not shaped by external hands. You are shaped by your thoughts, and they belong to you alone. Now take up the power. Take up the truth. Take up the verse that rules all others. Hold it. Repeat it. Build upon it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Let us continue. Thought alone is not enough. A thought unaccompanied by belief is a vapor. It rises and vanishes. But a thought saturated with faith, that is fire. That is creation. That is how invisible becomes visible. An idea becomes empire. You may think success, but if you do not believe the thought, if you do not wrap it in conviction, in certainty, in emotional heat, it will never take form. It will remain a ghost, haunting your imagination, but never building your life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But what is the heart? It is not the casual mind. It is not passing interest. It is the seat of belief. The emotionalized subconscious, where thoughts are no longer visitors, they are residents. Thought opens the gate. Faith gives the command. Faith is the force that tells the subconscious, this is not a wish, this is law. This is not someday, this is mine. And the subconscious, which always obeys belief, begins to shape the world to match the decree. Let me be clear. You do not receive what you think. You receive what you believe. Your results do not come from words alone. They come from the emotional vibration behind the words, the tone of certainty, the mental posture that does not ask, it commands. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is not poetry. That is instruction. That is God's law of manifestation. If the thing is not yet visible, but you believe it with intensity, it begins to move toward you. Let me give you examples. Charles M. Schwab was not born into power, but he believed in his power before the world did. He saw himself at the helm of industry while still sweeping the floors. His tone, his walk, his speech carried the vibration of leadership. And the world, which bends to belief, responded. Carnegie entrusted him with leadership not because of age or resume, but because his belief in himself was contagious. He carried the weight of purpose before the position was ever assigned. That is how belief draws responsibility. That is how faith creates authority. Now consider Edison. He believed in electric light before the science caught up. He failed thousands of times. not because his ideas were weak, but because his faith never cracked. He held the result in his mind long enough for the conditions to surrender. Understand this. Faith held longer than fear becomes reality. If your faith wavers, your fortune wavers. If your belief shakes, your results scatter. But if you believe like Schwab, like Edison, like Ford, like Lincoln, your world must match what you carry inside. So how do you build that kind of belief? The same way a tree grows: daily nourishment, daily repetition, daily contact with truth. This is the power of autosuggestion. You train your subconscious through repeated, emotionalized affirmations of your definite purpose. When you speak your aim aloud, morning and night, you are not just talking. You are giving instruction to the very mechanism that builds your life. And the more emotion you add, the deeper it takes root. This is not superstition. This is spiritual engineering. Thought is blueprint. Faith is construction. Autosuggestion is the labor crew that works while you sleep, bringing form to the structure you have declared. You must speak your faith before you see results. If you wait for evidence, you are not operating in faith. You are reacting to circumstance. The rich do not wait for proof. They create it through belief. Faith does not require external permission. It does not ask, "Is this realistic?" It declares, "This is mine, and I accept it now." And life, by law, begins arranging itself to obey. But beware, faith must not be occasional. It must be persistent. It must be cultivated like a fire that is never left to die. One missed day, one weak confession, one hesitant step. These are cracks where fear enters. Faith is built by ritual. Faith is secured by discipline. You must not leave it to chance. You must train it into your system until you walk in it, speak in it, breathe in it. Say this now: I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. Say it again, not as a chant, as a law, as a builder laying foundation stone. I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. Let these words become your spiritual constitution. Let them govern your language. Let them correct your inner dialogue when fear tries to rise. You are not required to know how it will happen. You are only required to believe it will. Faith handles the mechanics. You supply the certainty. This is how the world is changed. This is how fortunes are formed. This is how average men are raised into excellence, not by sight, but by faith. From this moment forward, monitor your tone. Speak with force. Do not say, "I hope to succeed." Say, "I will succeed," because I already believe it. Do not say, "I want wealth." Say, "Wealth is mine by spiritual law, and I receive it now." The subconscious accepts what is declared with emotion. It does not question. It does not filter. It simply obeys what is repeated with belief. And once it accepts, it goes to work. It moves people. It shifts circumstance. It draws resources. It opens doors. It creates events. You may not see how, but it will make the way plain. This is how the rich live before they are rich. This is how they act with certainty before success appears. This is how they draw power to themselves. They believe first, and reality follows. And you must do the same. Now rise. Pick up your written statement. Read it aloud today. Read it again tonight. Read it with emotion. Read it until your voice sounds like a man of faith, a man of command, a man of destiny. Repeat these final affirmations. I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. What I believe, I will see. My mind is a builder. My words are orders. My faith is the engine. Let us continue. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. These are not soft words. They are not symbolic. They are not meant for poetic pondering. They are law, unchanging, non-negotiable, eternal. And no man who violates this law shall prosper, just as no man who honors it can be denied. Every thought is a seed. Every sentence you speak, every emotion you repeat, every image you entertain in your mind is a seed dropped into the soil of your future. You may not see its fruit tomorrow, you may not see it next month, but you will see it. The universe does not forget what you plant. It does not misplace your thoughts. It does not skip over careless words. It returns your thoughts in kind. Fear planted grows fear. Doubt planted grows delay. Boldness planted grows opportunity. Repetition multiplies it. This law cannot be bribed. It cannot be tricked. It cannot be circumvented by shortcuts, excuses, or charm. You may climb high through deceit, but if you have planted pride, corruption, and fear, the fall is already scheduled. The law is blind to appearance, but loyal to substance. You may envy the man who rises fast, but observe long enough and the harvest of his inner world will come. If he planted truth, he will thrive. If he planted vanity, he will fall. Time reveals the roots of every man. The greatest fortunes ever created began with a consistent planting of thoughts, decisions, and disciplines. The greatest ruins always began with neglect, fear, and foolish seed. John D. Rockefeller did not build Standard Oil by accident. He did not win because he was lucky. He was not favored by chance. He was intentional in seed, relentless in order, and disciplined in thought. He planted value. He received value. He planted scale. He received empire. He planted stability. He received legacy. His life was a series of deliberate plantings. His mind was organized farmland, and his harvest matched the care of his cultivation. Most men sow without knowing. They toss seeds carelessly in every direction. A little envy here, a little fear there, a little laziness when no one is watching. Then they cry out when the weeds of poverty overtake their life. But the harvest only follows the hand. You are harvesting today what you planted yesterday. That is not meant to shame you. It is meant to awaken you. If you do not like the fruit, change the seed. If you do not like the environment, change the thought that built it. You must now begin to audit your seed. Every belief you hold, every sentence you repeat, every fear you entertain, every excuse you protect, every delay you justify, these are seeds. You must no longer say, I can't afford that. You must no longer say, that's not possible for someone like me. You must no longer say, that's just my luck. These are curses you speak over your own harvest. If you want wealth, you must plant it. Not just in bank accounts, but in mind, word, and daily movement. You must think wealth when no one sees. Speak it when no one agrees. Build it when no one claps. Every morning is soil. Every evening is reflection. Every thought is a seed. Every word is a decree. Every action is a planting. And the man who understands this becomes the master of his own field. Let the lazy mock this law. Let the drifting man call it superstition, but they will reap a life of confusion and say it was fate. It was never fate. It was farming. Now ask yourself, what have I planted today? What am I watering with repetition? What am I feeding with imagination? What will grow from what I allow to live in my mind? Do not pretend ignorance. You know what you're sowing. If you've been careless, decide now. Pull the weeds, burn the field, and plant again with thought, faith, and fire. If you want a new life, you must plant a new harvest. And if you want that harvest to come in full, you must plant daily. Discipline is the hand that never forgets to sow. Say this aloud. I sow wealth daily. My harvest is guaranteed because I plant with intention. Again, I sow wealth daily. My harvest is guaranteed because I plant with intention. These are not affirmations. These are the voices of your next season. Speak them as a farmer speaks of rain, with reverence, with urgency, with unshakable expectation. There is no such thing as an idle day. There is no neutral ground. If you are not planting with purpose, weeds are growing by default. The field does not wait for your decision. It responds to what is active. If you skip your morning thought, the weeds speak for you. If you neglect your spoken aim, the fears whisper louder. If you walk through the day without attention, the harvest becomes accidental. And accidental harvests never bless the man. Plant only what you want multiplied. Think only what you want repeated. Speak only what you want returned. Act only in ways that water your destiny. This law governs empires and individuals. It is the reason some rise and others remain. It does not care where you begin. It only cares what you do with the field you've been given. You have been given today, this moment, this mind, this soil, and it is waiting for your command. Do not end this day without sowing something. Do not sleep tonight without naming the thought you wish to multiply. Do not walk through life casting shadows when you could be casting seed. The law is watching. The ground is listening. And the man who plants with purpose owns the future. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That single verse contains the origin of all identity. Not as he wants to be, not as he hopes to be, not as others say he should be, but as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. The heart is not the organ that pumps blood. It is the inner self. It is belief. It is identity. It is the subconscious reality you carry beneath your words, beneath your posture, beneath your memory. It is the man you are when no one watches. No man receives wealth before he becomes the kind of man who can hold it. The riches never arrive before the identity. Even if they do, they vanish, because the man still holding the identity of lack will sabotage what doesn't match his inner frame. This is why lottery winners lose their fortunes. This is why sudden success destroys the unprepared, because you cannot keep what your identity cannot carry. Riches are not attracted to desperation. They are attracted to congruence. They come to the man whose thoughts, words, rituals, posture, and attitude match the life he says he desires. If you think in your heart as a beggar, no amount of outer striving will change your destiny. If you see yourself in secret as a failure, the world will eventually confirm it. You are never betrayed by life. You are only matched. So I say to you, you must become before you receive. You must walk in the identity of the man you are becoming before he ever appears in your bank account, your mirror, your network, or your reputation. This is not pretense. This is alignment. This is how the laws of the universe detect seriousness. You think as the man, so you become the man. And once you become the man, you receive what belongs to him. The identity must precede the evidence. It is not the money that makes the man. It is the man that makes the money. The world sees the harvest, but heaven sees the seed. And the seed is always planted in your inner concept of self. I ask you, what do you really think about yourself when no one's around? Do you feel equal to the fortune you claim to desire? Or do you still walk with hidden inferiority? Do you repeat statements of power in public only to whisper doubt to yourself in private? Do you speak of success and still carry the language of failure in your inner conversation? The truth is, you cannot rise above your self-image. You may temporarily fight your way forward. But if your identity is still that of the man who fails, who doubts, who apologizes for his greatness, you will find a way to return to the version of life that matches the man you believe yourself to be. This is why you must build identity like a fortress. It is the foundation beneath all wealth, all purpose, all confidence. No man has built empires on self-contempt. No man has led others while seeing himself as unworthy. No man has risen with a broken picture of his own worth. I remember the story of Edwin C. Barnes, the man who entered the mind of Edison long before he entered his business. He was not a man of credentials. He was not a man of fortune. But he saw himself as equal to the opportunity he desired. He believed, not in vague theory, but in certainty, that he would become Edison's partner. He did not hope. He did not beg. He did not drift into a job. He declared the partnership in his heart and walked forward with that decision written on his spirit. He worked menial tasks, but in his heart he was a builder. He swept floors, but in his identity he stood at the helm of enterprise. And eventually, reality caught up with his